And then all of a sudden I found myself planning my own, which was kind of depressing, but boy did we have fun. So there's a little place called, oh, I don't know the name of it. We call it the Roadhouse. It's like a little southern dive bar at the end of the street where we shoot. And we had shot Laurie's final scene. My trailer looked like a crime scene. There was like chunks of belly and blood everywhere. I'd said goodbye to the crew and the cast with this tearful thing. We were like, okay, we're all gonna go to the Roadhouse and celebrate properly. And I'm in my car and the phone rings. It was Glenn Mazzara, who I had asked not to come to set for that final scene because his mother had just passed away. And I was like, you can't be here. Don't be a hero. So, he was calling and picked up the phone. I said, hey Glenn, it all went well. He goes, well, about that last day thing. I was like, I can't take this. Not right now. My emotions are right here. I just gave birth. You gotta cut me some slack. He said, we're thinking of bringing you back for flashbacks. And I think I said something like, I don't want to know about it. Like, you call me when there's a real script and it's for sure. And the initial idea was that Laurie was gonna come back as a zombie in the dress, talking to Rick. And between Gail Ann Hurd and Denise Huth and myself, and I think Nicotero, there were a few people who were like, we can't have a talking zombie. We can't do it. First of all, the prosthetic teeth. You literally can't speak. But it just wasn't an idea that made any sense. And so then we started thinking about those flashbacks, because Rick has all those hallucination phone calls and stuff. So at the time I shot it, yes, I thought that was the end of it. And then I shot the first flashback, and that was supposed to be the end of it. And then I shot that. And so I kept coming back, and the crew was like, how many times do we have to throw you a party to say goodbye? It got very anticlimactic. But it wasn't my fault.
So my initial question was actually going to be about comparing your career to Sean Bean's, but we already covered that.
I didn't understand a word you just said.
My initial question was going to be comparing your career to Sean Bean's.
Oh.
But we did already cover that apparently.
We covered that.
Yeah, so my question is this,
I will sit on the Iron Throne.
when you've read through the graphic novels, and you've played a part in the show, what parts did you like that they changed in the graphic novels, and what part didn't you like?
Let me just make sure I understood you right. What parts do I like that they changed, and what parts do I didn't like that they changed?
Yeah, compared to the graphic novel.
Compared to the graphic novels. That's an interesting question. I've put the graphic novel so far out of my head, there's a lot I don't quite remember. I don't mean to pander, but I do think adding the Dixon brothers was a bit of a stroke of genius. I gotta say, I think Frank Darabont had something pretty cool going when he came up with Daryl and Merle. I think that, right? Yeah. I think Sophia coming out of the barn was tremendous. I think those are incredible. I love Morgan and Dwayne. They're a big part of what I loved about the pilot. Their future, hopefully, will be kind of more like the graphic novels, but I don't know that that's possible at this point. I kind of want to keep thinking about that, and if more comes to me, I'm also kind of reticent to say that there's things I don't like, because I love everybody who works on the show, and I don't want to piss them off, to be honest. So I'll give you the positives, and I think, Daryl, Merle, Sophia coming out of the barn. I also think what they've done with Carol is absolutely tremendous. I think Melissa McBride is one of the best actresses on television right now. I think she's an absolute powerhouse. And let me tell you, Carol in season 4, you are going to lose your minds. If there is any justice in the world, Melissa McBride will walk away with every acting award known to man after what she's doing this season. It's tremendous.
Thank you.
I just want to take us a little bit away from Walking Dead for a second. You said that the Walking Dead cast has been the best one you've ever worked with. You worked with some pretty amazing actors, Robert and William and Dominic and that on Prison Break. So what was it about the Walking Dead cast that made it just that much better to be a part of?
Look, Prison Break was a tremendous job, and we had a huge amount of fun. I think part of what makes the Walking Dead experience what it is that we have the best crew in the history of crews. Prison Break moved around, right? We were in Chicago season 1, we were in Dallas seasons 2 and 3, we were in LA season 4. And so most of the crew couldn't travel with us. You know, for financial reasons, productions don't work that way and they have families. Walking Dead now, you're 4 seasons with mostly the same crew. And it's a culture of really nurturing people's careers and promoting from within. I mean, Tom, who's one of our executive producers now, he started as our line producer. He really believes in investing in people. So Mike Satrazemis started out as our camera operator. Almost, you know, I mean, he is the vision and the look of the show. Through all the changes that we've had, and directors through all the changes we've had, and showrunners and tone and actors, Satrazemis is the common thread, one of the common threads that really links everything. He is now the director of photography. He's now the cinematographer for season 4. He's going to be directing in season 4. So it's that kind of an environment where people are really encouraged to grow. And I threw a party for the cast and the crew season 2, and we've continued doing that kind of a thing. It's not just a cast of a dozen or so actors who come together and whose families get together and all of that. It's then the 80 people that work with us. And it's such a hard show. The hours are so long, it is so hot, it's so humid, you're running, it's super physical, you're in the sun. And so everybody, we sweat together, we bleed together, and it's that 80 people of the crew that are that consistent heartbeat that I think keep it together and really make it the sort of superlative thing that it is.
I have a question, but I also want to ask you for a really quick favor. The next time you see the actors that play Glenn and Daryl, could you please tell them Melissa and Chelsea say hi for me?
Yes, I will do that. Melissa and Chelsea, copy that.
Thank you. My question is, in the first season, everybody knows how it happens. Rick wakes up in the hospital. You know the story really well, you know how it's written. So if you could decide, how would you make it that Rick found out about the apocalypse, the zombie apocalypse, if it wasn't him in a coma in the hospital?
I didn't quite catch the question. One more time? If I woke up in a...
No. If you could decide, if Rick didn't wake up in the hospital, how would you decide he found out about the zombie apocalypse?
If he didn't wake up in the hospital, how would I decide that he would find out about the zombie apocalypse?
Yes.
They lived in a small town, right? And I live in a pretty small town in BC, and you can kind of get a little cut off. I don't have a television, I don't listen to the news regularly. And we were talking once, Frank was talking about doing a flashback episode, obviously that never happened, but to the time when Rick was in the hospital, as the apocalypse was kind of coming along. And I hear you, I feel the same way, and we were talking about, what if they're just at soccer practice? Lori's got the minivan, she's driven Carl to soccer practice. Rick's there, he and Shane swing by in the squad car, and kind of off in the distance, there's just something kind of weird going on, and like 1 or 2 walkers sort of shamble around and nobody really knows what's going on, and somebody thinks that they're, just sick people or whatever, and goes over and they get bit, but they don't think about it, and we hustle them into the squad car and they leave. I think I read, what was it called? The Colson Whitehead book. Anyone can help me out? It's the It's the book that he wrote about the zombie apocalypse. It came out after World War Z. But it's all about the quiet ways in which people find out about things before it's 7,000, zombie hordes pushing over knocking into a mall. It's just one guy walking into the middle of a church, and everyone kind of going, what's wrong with that guy? I think that's an interesting way to lead it in too, with a group of people who just kind of go, well, this is a one-off, this will never happen again, in a small town. And then you hear, anybody hear what happened in Atlanta? I don't know, I heard that there was something in a hospital and that kind of a thing, that kind of a snowball. I think that's another interesting way to do it, but I also think what Kirkman did was pretty bloody perfect. Really hard question, by the way.
I have a Prison Break question. I was wondering, when in season 4 did you find out that it was going to be the last season, and how did the final break movie, how did that come into being? Was that an afterthought? You going into prison and breaking out, how did that come into fruition?
So we found out, I want to say about halfway through season 4, that it was the last season. Way above my pay grade as to why that was. All I know is it didn't come from me. And the final break thing about Dr. Sarah getting sent to prison and then being broken out, that was the pitch for season 5. So they took the season 5 pitch and they made it into a movie. I think the movie was released in theaters in Europe and stuff. But it just became kind of like a DVD extra, I think, in the States. And the writers were just really interested in what would happen if, because Sarah had committed her share of felonies in the course of the 3 seasons, and they were interested in exploring what would happen if she was held accountable for those things, and then threatened, and then, it would be Michael, of course, that would come and break her out. So they just sort of truncated that into that 2-hour DVD. And that's, they didn't want to throw out their great ideas for season 5, so they just smushed them into 2 hours. What do you think? Cool costume. Everybody loved. Everybody loved.
Hi. I noticed during season 3, Laurie Holden mentioned that there were some fans that were giving her a lot of harsh criticism because they couldn't separate her from Andrea. Did you ever experience that, and how did you deal with it?
So not being a comic book or horror fan, I didn't really know this whole world, right? So season 1, I go to San Diego Comic-Con to promote The Walking Dead, and I'm playing Laurie. And the second interview, I could draw you a picture of this guy if I could draw. He was an online journalist, and he goes, so Laurie's a total bitch, how do you feel about that? And I was like, I beg your, who, what? Hi, I'm Sarah. It was the weirdest, he was furious. This guy was so mad at me. Arguably because his girlfriend cheated on him in high school or something, you know what I mean? Clearly this has nothing to do with me. But he was really angry about it, and we did this 10-minute interview where I kind of just tried to take on board his emotional baggage. And it was my introduction to realizing that that people's reactions to The Walking Dead and to Laurie were maybe going to be more intense than any other job I'd ever had. And that people were going to take it personally. And on the one hand, I'm kind of honored by that, because it means that the work I'm doing matters enough to somebody that they're getting all riled up about it. I think most grown-ups, right? You know where I'm going with this? I mean, I'm an actor, I do this for a living. I didn't create the comic, I didn't write the words. But a lot of people got super mad. My job, I can't play a character and not like them. Maybe some people can, I'm just not a good enough actor. I gotta find something to love and connect to. I think Laurie's amazing. I think Laurie's a heroine. I think Laurie's a human who's made all kinds of mistakes, but you could say the same thing about any character on the show, and that's what I love about the show, is there's